Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pucking Mad podcast. Today's podcast is a little bit different. It feels a bit weird, actually, because it's just me talking. Normally, I have somebody who actually knows what they're talking about here to help me out. But to be honest, I don't know. But I felt like a reactionary video to the news that Basingstoke Bison wouldn't be icing next season was quite important. It's a new style podcast for me. If you like it, please let me know. If you dislike it, let me know too. I promise I won't get too upset. It's about trying new things. If it's rubbish, please tell me, and I'll stop. I'll stop doing these solo podcasts. I think when it comes to this situation, I'm sure, like most people, I kind of knew this day would come. The rink in Basingstoke for has been long overdue a revamp, at the very least, for some time. So news that it probably wouldn't be suitable for the Bison next season doesn't really come as a surprise. I think the way the news was broke comes as a surprise more. But it's one of those things, unfortunately. In today's podcast, like I said, I want to try something a little bit different and try to shed some light on the situation over at Basingstoke. I think people like 4000 and Counting have done an amazing job in kind of going live yesterday evening and talking about this in great detail. But I thought as well, maybe I could add a few little extra bits in too, in order to maybe shed some light on the issue. We'll look at the kind of the past of the rink, present of the rink, and if we can, we'll talk a little bit about the future. It's probably better not to talk about that too much because, let's be brutally honest, the council are involved, so it probably means that nothing will happen. I think the most important thing for me that I want to get across is the issue of ownership when it comes to the ice rink. The important thing to remember is that the rink at Basingstoke is actually part of a leisure park. The ownership of this leisure park and its various facilities is slightly more complicated than perhaps it needs to be. The freehold, so the land that the rink is built on, is owned by Basingstoke and Deane Council. For anyone who doesn't know, they're an incredibly competent group of people. The rink itself is owned by a third party, listed on the ever reliable Wikipedia as the Arena Group Ltd. Then, making things even more complicated, Planet Ice simply operate the rink. Obviously, they operate rinks all over the country and also appear to be in the EIHA's. There are various articles that I have used to find information on this topic. I will link them all to a blog post that I will release on puckingmad.com if you're interested. In those various articles, they show a constant battle between the council, the owner, and Planet Ice for who should pick up the bill for any necessary work. Sadly, with this kind of organization and the way that the leisure park runs, unfortunately, the ice rink, I think, was doomed from the start, to be honest. So if we talk about the rink in itself, it was built in 1988, the same year that the Bison were formed, albeit the Bison were terrifyingly called the Basingstoke Beavers at the time. Thankfully, they rebranded that to the Bison. But during its heyday, home and away fans would pack the place out, regularly reaching 2,000 spectator capacity. Nowadays, the structural issues mean that the capacity is probably less than half the advertised 2,000 spectators. I won't go into the Bison history too much, as there are plenty of resources out there to do so. There's plenty of blogs, banners on the wall, for example, well worth looking at, and they could do a far better job of talking about the history that Basingstoke Bison have had. But I think it's fair to say that there's been a few kind of issues financially, which has led to Planet Ice stepping in to take over the team and run the team individually. Moving on to the rink, I think the biggest problem the rink faces is a permafrost build-up, which might seem a bit stupid because it's an ice rink, but the permafrost build-up under the rink appears to be causing structural issues on and around the ice itself. If you visited Basingstoke Ice Rink, you probably noticed the boards around the condemned stands are not straight. It's probably fair to say that the permafrost could be causing the issues there. I don't know. I'm not a structural engineer, but I think it's fair to suggest that. This permafrost could also cause the freezing pipes under the rink to break. Based on the owners' councils or Planet Ice's refusal to spend money, I think it's fair to suggest that a broken pipe would be curtains for the rink anyway. Again, I will add all the articles and images that I've used in this podcast to a blog post on puckingmad.com. I could probably go on about the problems at the rink for hours, but I don't have enough time, quite frankly. However, the important thing to know is that the rink hasn't been deemed suitable for the Bison next season. That said, I should state that the Basingstoke Buffalo and the junior setups will continue. However, it's probably not a stretch to say that they will be affected in various ways. Reduced ice time is probably the biggest factor. Sadly, the knock-on effect from reduced youth setups can damage youth prospects for years and years to come. This is a particular worry, I think, and something that really needs to be addressed. Moving on to the future of, of the rink. Currently, the Bison claim that they will pull out of the competition for next season while works are underway to improve the rink. Sadly, though, there have been no real solid plans or statements regarding the works from anyone connected to the ice rink. Obviously, this was announced yesterday evening. So to be completely honest, maybe there will be some announcements soon, but I wouldn't hold my breath. This is a worrying factor, as we've had a lot of hot air for many years claiming that works were due to be started, things like that. Now the Bison have gone, I think it's probably removed some of the pressure on the owners' council Planet Ice and probably makes them less likely to do the repairs. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But once gone, sometimes teams just don't come back. And I think that could be a problem here. I really hope I'm wrong, but I think it could be an issue. Plans for a whole revamp of the leisure park have been proposed by the idiots at Basingstoke Council. With nearly £1 million spent on consultancy fees, the plans are inching closer to completion. I think there are 3 or 4 swanky photo mock-ups of what the park will look like when complete. Very impressive for the £1 million spent. I don't want to be cantankerous, but I'm pretty sure that you could have spent that £1 million in sorting the rink out. Possibly. I don't know. Maybe that's a bit of a contentious issue, but from what I can gather, I don't really understand what the council's done other than spend £1 million on some images. I think it's fair to suggest that nothing will happen. I hope I'm wrong. Again, I really hope I'm wrong. But the Bison will either have to leave Basingstoke or finish playing altogether, which would be a crying shame for the people of Basingstoke, Bison fans, because I don't think it can be underestimated the amount of importance that there is around the Bison in Basingstoke. Based on this kind of rambling podcast that I've just done, it's probably clear that I'm a bit of an idiot. I don't really know what I'm talking about when it comes to these matters. There are definitely better qualified people to talk about it than me. Like I said, if you haven't checked it out, look at 4000 and Counting's live response yesterday. It was fantastic when dealing with this. I'd love to know your opinions on the matter rather than mine. If you know, or if you feel that I've got anything wrong, if you think that you disagree with something I've said, please let me know in the comments. I'd really appreciate that. Even if you think I'm terribly wrong, you think I'm an idiot, tell me. That's fine. Thank you so much for listening.